Quinlan.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Jacob.
All right, I'm going to be introducing the topic. What we're doing is we are conducting a study on how does overeating and the eating habits of college students affect their study. That's what we're studying. Why are we doing this? Well, it's important because as college students, people are, for the very first times in their lives, largely left to devise their own structure and routines in their life. Stuff like what to buy for to eat, what to put in their fridge, how to find time, schedule their days, stuff like when are you going to study, when are you going to work, when are you going to go to class, when are you going to do extracurriculars perhaps, sports, whatever else. And particularly, we are going to be studying food and how this comes into play. There are a number of pitfalls that can come for a college student when they're entering this new world and they are trying to structure their time. And one of these things that can happen is they can find themselves eating lots of foods with a high glycemic index. And basically what that is glycemic index is simply a measure of the way specific foods affect your blood sugar. And foods in a high glycemic index can lead to things like irritability, mental fog, tiredness, that sort of thing. And we are theorizing that this will lead to poor study habits, correct? And other pitfalls that college students can fall into are things like procrastination, simply the delaying of the tasks that must be done, responsibilities, perhaps definitely, and food is actually a major form of procrastination. Studying how that can affect your studying habits as well. And to delve deeper into this topic, we have devised 3 hypotheses, and I'll turn this off to Sarah to explain.
Our first hypothesis is college students establishing a diet that majorly consists of foods with high glycemic indexes lead to less productive studying and less studying overall. Like Ryan said, a lot of college students they pick processed foods and fast foods, like you said, have high glycemic indexes. And again, that leads to irritability, drowsiness, and anxiousness, which doesn't create the best circumstances for students trying to study most effectively. Our second hypothesis is college students with irregular eating patterns, such as skipping meals and binge eating, will have less productive studying and less studying overall. Like Ryan mentioned as well, we, as first coming to college, we're often in charge of our own schedules for the first time, and a lot of times we might not allot enough time for meals, which causes skipping meals and then binge eating as well, which can also cause postprandial somnolence, which is most commonly known as a food coma, which is the feeling of fatigue, tiredness, and the lack of concentration that is often experienced after eating a meal. And again, this doesn't create the most ideal environment or circumstances for somebody trying to study most effectively. Our third hypothesis is overeating is a way in which college students procrastinating, delaying time that could be spent studying. Students, as college students, we've all heard of procrastinating. I'm pretty sure we all have done it as well. Research has actually said that 70% of college students have procrastinated and 20% of them do it regularly. And like Ryan said as well, one way you can procrastinate is by having a snack, and oftentimes you might not be hungry when you're seeking out this distraction, which again reduces your time spent studying as well. Next, we're going to discuss our survey plan.
Okay, so the survey plan is going to be based off like snowball sampling, so we're going to be getting emails and getting other people to recommend this. We'll be emailing a lot of athletes, kids in the dorms and kids outside the dorms as well. Some things that go along with the survey plan is the independent and dependent variables here. To explain the independent variables, we have 3 of them. The first one is the glycemic index, what we'll be talking about in our survey. This will kind of explain like questions like what foods do we actually eat. So there's going to be a certain amount of foods, and you can check off the boxes of what foods that you eat out of those, and it's gonna be a high glycemic index or a low glycemic index. And like we said before, high and low glycemic indexes can have restlessness, anxiety, drowsiness, and it affects our blood pressure overall. And the next one is postprandial somnolence. So another question we'll be asking during the survey is, are you studying after a meal? And this is exactly like what happens on, say, like Thanksgiving. I'm sure you all are used to. Everyone gets tired after it. It's a lot of like carbs intake can actually make you more drowsy and less likely to study and do things like that, and that can lead into procrastination, which is the next one. And that kind of puts all the other factors all into part. If we don't get like completely clear results on the glycemic index or postprandial somnolence, and if people don't want to answer them like completely truthfully, we can see procrastination as a third intake into that to kind of back up those two as well. And then overall, all three of those will kind of affect our dependent variable. How much are we exactly studying? And then this kind of helps out too, because we don't really know, we can't really ask what kind of calorie intake everyone is getting, because people will not know that. So those three independent variables actually help us with determining this and if they actually affect it. It's an easier way to kind of count calories without actually asking for them.
So when it comes to the sample plan, we're going to be looking at a study of eating habits of all college students. And like it's been touched on, the glycemic index of foods is what we're going to be looking at and how it leads to postprandial somnolence and procrastination. The two major things that we thought of looking at would be obviously the eating habits and the amount of exercise that college students get. The students have different lives. Some live on campus, some live off campus. So we're going to look at both sides of that, because most people that live in the dorms might have a meal plan, which helps them, and off-campus students kind of have to fend for themselves. Obviously, we can try and find the types of foods that they eat. When it comes to exercise, there's obviously the difference. Obviously, there's athletes, people who work out on a daily basis, and then the people that don't work out at all. Because obviously, when you work out, you burn more calories, it's going to make you want to eat more. And we found that that gives us a little bit of a better perspective and could give us a lot better results.
So, in conclusion, of course, we haven't done the study and gotten the results yet, but to go over it, when you study how does overeating and the habits of college students affect their studying in regards to eating, we're testing three hypotheses, which is students with a high glycemic index will have poorer studying. Hypothesis 2, students with irregular eating habits will have poorer studying. And hypothesis 3, overeating is procrastination and will delay study further. And also, independent variable, time spent studying, independent variable, glycemic index, somnolence, and procrastination. And we snowball emails and survey together.
Is there any questions?